the webinar. So thank you so much again. Let's have fun. All right. Ready, Suzanne? Good.
Yes, ready. Now, a very good morning to everyone joining us from Europe, perhaps from Germany, and good afternoon for everyone joining us from Southeast Asia. Very warm welcome to the European Research and Innovation Days ASEAN 2022. My name is Susanne Renzo-Vasu, and I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Dr. Jen L. You can see her somewhere in the middle. We are the Euraccess worldwide team in ASEAN, and it is our mandate, but also our pleasure to build bridges between the research communities in Europe and here in Southeast Asia. Every year for the past 7 years, we've been putting on the EU R&I Days for sure. This is the 7th year in a row, and we're focusing this year on the twin transition, going green and digital. And what we're doing, this is the 2nd week already, we're putting on all these wonderful virtual opportunities for you to find out what amazing research is going on in Europe and in ASEAN, so that you can perhaps reach out to new collaborators. You can identify funding opportunities. You can find your dream research project that you want to work on. So we're hoping that this is the platform that you can all benefit from. And today we're zooming in on one of the EU member countries, and that is Germany. Before I introduce the moderator to you, quickly I'll hand over to my colleague, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan. So it's a great start for this week, or for the next 3 days at least, because we are going to focus on the EU member states. So excellent research, innovation initiatives, collaboration and funding opportunities. So this is just the start. So we're starting strong with Germany, of course, today. But after this session, in an hour, we also have Italy. So just wanted to share that we will have Italy at 4:30 p.m. SGT or 3:30 p.m. ICT. And then tomorrow, we have 3 sessions, starting off with, again, from Germany. Germany is an overachiever here. Another session on Germany and climate change, energy transition, and urban living, specifically on the Green Tech Hub. That is at 3 p.m. SGT. And then after that, followed by Finland on top-level climate change research at 4:30 p.m. SGT. And then followed by Spain on how renewable hydrogen drives energy transition in Spain. And we're closing strong on Friday. We have two events on Friday. Austria will talk about green and digital transition with a focus on startups. And we're wrapping it up with Spain again on an innovation dialogue on global health, which is at 4:30 p.m. SGT. So if you look at our website, I'll put it as well on the chat, so you can sign up for the session. So please join us. This is just a start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So without much further ado, today we're looking at Germany. Our session is titled Energy Transition Research and Cooperation Possibilities with Germany. And Germany, of course, one of the powerhouses when it comes to research and innovation. We have a very strong panel, and they're ready to share their expertise and their advice with you. I'd like to introduce you to our moderator today. It is Dr. Thorsten Klausing. He's the Science and Technology Counselor at the German Embassy in Singapore and Thailand, so he's traveling a lot. His core task in this role, of course, is to foster cooperation between German and Southeast Asian researchers in all areas of science, with a particular focus on sustainability-related research. Before he came to Singapore, he worked in German and European embassies all over the world, including Ethiopia, South Arabia, and Russia. Dr. Klausing, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Susanne. And good morning or good afternoon to all listeners and viewers. I'm very happy to welcome you to this session on energy transition research, which of course has been very much at the center of public attention in Germany already for quite a while, and even more so now in this year when there have been additional, as we all know, energy problems. And so we are very happy to have some of, to have people here that can tell us about this in much detail, in particular our colleagues from the Technical University of Darmstadt. So I would like to present to you Mr. Thomas Kohne, who heads the research group at the Institute of Production Management, Technology and Machine Tools at the Technical University of Darmstadt. And he is involved in the Living Lab Delta, which looks at energy transition problems in a real life setting. So to see where the actual problems are and where practical solutions might be to actually put the transition from fossil energy to renewable energy into practice. And he will share with us in a moment what he has already found out in his research and what he is working on. And then let me already also introduce the presenters for the second part of our session today. We will have Dr. Guido Schniedes, who is the director of the DAAD regional office in Jakarta. So he represents the German Academic Exchange Service in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Timor-Leste, so in a large part of the ASEAN region. And he was in Malaysia before and has a long experience of working also in the head office of the DAAD in Bonn. So he will tell us about how you can get support for cooperation projects between German and Southeast Asian institutions of higher learning, and what the DAAD can do to support student and researcher mobility. And he will be joined by Dr. Katja Young, who is the head of division for Asia at the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation in Bonn. So the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation is one of the important institutions in Germany when it comes to supporting cooperation between researchers, both German researchers, but also researchers from abroad who are interested in collaborating with partners in Germany. So she will tell us about the possibilities that the foundation can offer for you. So let us now quickly come to the subject matter of our session, and I'm happy to hand over the floor to Thomas Kohne.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'll just start to share my screen. And okay, do you see my screen right now? Okay, perfect. Then thanks again for the possibility to hold a short presentation of a research project I'm currently working in, or which I currently coordinate in Darmstadt in Germany. It's a research project called Delta, Darmstadt Energy Laboratory for Technologies and Application, and it's funded by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. And I will start presenting this kind of research initiative, which was started 2019 with the first call for projects. It's called Living Labs of the Energiewende, or Living Labs of the Energy Transition. So what are those kind of projects? The ministry tries to fund projects for a kind of holistic approach to test technical and non-technical innovations for energy transition on a larger scale. So apart from basic research and application-oriented research, these living labs are a third column right now. I will say something about it later on. And here we want to scale the demand for energy technologies by researching on it on a real world scale somehow. So we want to research on innovative operating and business models. So not only the technical parts of some energy technologies such as heat pumps, but also trying to operate those systems in a real life scale. And then, of course, we want to also analyze the socioeconomic and societal aspects. So acceptance within society of this transition, and aspects like that. And last but not least, the federal ministry wants to get knowledge from the projects on regulatory learning. So, for example, if there is some kind of legislation which counteracts to the application of useful energy technologies, then they want to learn about it from these projects. So as I said, the first call was in 2019. Topics were sector coupling and hydrogen technologies on the one side, and energy optimized neighborhoods on the other side. And we applied with one project, with the Delta project, on the second topic area. So currently, as of 2022, 11 projects started. On the right side, you can see 20 project ideas, which was signed somehow in 2020. The blue ones for hydrogen, the green ones for energy optimized cities or areas, urban areas. And yes, and in the middle, you can see where I am currently at. This is Darmstadt, where we host this one living lab. And now I want to present some aspects of how the living lab is organized and what we do. And later on something about the timeline and when we expect the first results. Yes. I already mentioned it here. You can see, unfortunately, this topic is in German because it's the German funding initiative, but the living labs are oriented on the technology readiness levels. So there's basic research and application-oriented research from the technology readiness levels 1 to 6 or 7. And now the living labs close somehow a gap to bring energy technologies and ideas in application, in real scale application. So the living lab in Darmstadt is contains a lot of partners. We have partners from large industries such as Evonik and Merck. We have the urban economy for energy supply, building sector, the Entega and the Bauverein AG. We have smaller companies like startups which bring in innovative approaches into the project. We have also the universities, the Technical University of Darmstadt with some institutes, and the University of Applied Sciences in Darmstadt. So there are a lot of partners coming together in this project, researching on the energy transition in Darmstadt and scaling up somehow ideas and testing ideas to be scaled up also later on after the project. So this is maybe kind of new or kind of a chance to bring together these many stakeholders within the city of Darmstadt and working together with them. What is the overall motivation for our project? We want to make Darmstadt a lighthouse for energy transition so that people can come to Darmstadt or virtually come to Darmstadt and see what is going on here and how do we apply energy technologies, what are the challenges to discuss if it's applicable at other places as well. So that's the first motivation. The second motivation, of course, we want to reduce emissions in Darmstadt. And the third motivation is that we want to build an innovation cluster here to not only expand the ideas we already research in the project, but over these technologies within the project, we want to build this innovation center. So what are the central issues we discuss with our partners, with the stakeholders within the city and the project? So we want to analyze the short, mid, and long-term energy efficiency goals within a typical medium-sized city. I later on explained some about the technical issues we are researching on. For that, we want to analyze locally available energy sources, especially waste heat from production sites, from commercials, from different areas, and how can they contribute to reduce the CO2 emissions within the urban energy system and to reduce the energy demand of an urban area. So we see the urban area of Darmstadt and also other medium-sized or large-sized cities as energy sinks somehow, and we want to reduce this overall energy demand. Therefore, we want to use local capacities and local infrastructure, which is already available, such as district heating. And this first three central issues or key questions we want to put together and research on new business models, legislation and incentives on this part, and also technological learning. As we are a technical university, we want to see what technologies are already available on the market, such as heat pump technologies for temperatures up to 100 degrees, and what technologies are not already available. And we have to bring it back into basic research or application-oriented research to research on this there. So overall, we want synergetic coupling of different areas or districts within Darmstadt, and I will present some examples later on. So here, maybe interesting, we follow a methodological technical approach. So we first look at single components, such as houses or production lines within the industry, and want to optimize their energy demand. Afterwards, we show if within a district, for example, if there's a supermarket and there's waste heat from the supermarket available for a district heating network within the district, then we want to use this possibilities within one district. And last but not least, we want to show possibilities how to optimize the linkage cross district. So, for example, putting together an industrial district within a residential district by using industrial waste heat. Here is a map of Darmstadt. So yeah, here's the city center. I'm currently sitting somewhere here. We have the Technical University of Darmstadt over the overall the city. So in the center a lot, we have here the technical parts, some technical parts of the research part of the Technical University. We have large industry in the north and northwest in Darmstadt. So it's a pretty common medium-sized city here with a university integrated. And on different places, we research on different topics. For example, as I mentioned before, in the north, we have a large company, the company Merck. And here we want to analyze how to utilize industrial waste heat. We want to implement electrolyzers for hydrogen use in an urban area and also use the waste heat of this electrolysis process. We want to implement sector coupling in a residential area, as I mentioned before, with a low temperature heating network with geothermal and supermarket waste heat. And so there we have a lot of single topics which fit in the overall energy system and show examples on how to transition urban areas in context of energy. So this structure brings us to the overall project structure. So we are organized, as I mentioned, we have a lot of partners and we have somehow organized these all partners. So we have sub-projects, we have 7 different sub-projects to analyze topics. For example, the residential area is sub-project 1, the industrial area is sub-project 2, we have the electrolyzers in a sub-project 3. We analyze how an energy flexible vehicle depot works. So especially focusing on electrified buses. So the overall bus infrastructure in Darmstadt is being electrified over the next years, and how can this somehow storage park of batteries, so to say, work within an urban area. Then we make analysis on the overall energy, electric energy system overlying the city. So how can we implement battery storages within the city to handle this medium voltage network more flexible? We also, besides the core energy technology topics, we research on sharing models within the city. And last but not least, as I mentioned, we have some startups here for heating storage, for heating in building, in residential areas and buildings. And here we want to make a technology scale up for these startups which have promising ideas. So that's somehow 7 columns with 7 different topics we research on, and we want to bring an application on a real life scale somehow. But we not only want to make these research on these columns, which could be single projects as well, but we want to bring it together and analyze how this overall stakeholder structure in Darmstadt works and how to bring more innovative technologies into the city. And thus we have over a cluster structure with an energy data cluster where we want to visualize the effects, so that also third parties which are not directly included into the project can see what is going on in Darmstadt and what is the benefits of these applications. We have a cluster for energy innovation. So here one institute of the Technical University of Darmstadt analyzes or researches on the innovation behavior within the project. So what are barriers? What are the stakeholders who somehow pull the energy transition into Darmstadt? And then we have the Energy Academy, where we want to include also the people living in Darmstadt with actions within the city. So we don't see ourselves as a project that researches for 5 years and then we present results, but we want to integrate the stakeholders which are not directly included into the project, such as the people living in Darmstadt, directly in the process within the project. So maybe that's also somehow new in the funding area, that you usually in the basic research or application-oriented research, you have a strict plan, and here we want to broaden it and break it a bit open for third parties. So now I'd like to just briefly introduce 2 sub-projects with 2 slides, just to show you what are the technical topics here, and then I will go to the overall timeline for the end. So the sub-project 2 is the Interacting Energy Optimized Industrial District. So as I mentioned before, we have the company Merck here with a large industrial area here. I think 10,000 people working here just in this site. So it's a pretty big district within the city of Darmstadt. And then we have a residential area next to it, which is supplied by district heating from the local energy supplier. So what do we do now within this sub-project? First, we research on the energy system within the industrial site. So we want to research on or apply internal heat integration. So we want to use waste heat within the industrial site of Merck, the low temperature waste heat from cooling processes, the high temperature waste heat from production processes, the waste heat from, for example, compressed air, or the compressors providing compressed or pressurized air. So here we want to put all the waste heat sources together and first optimize the internal structure of the industrial energy system. As of today, we just want to, so right now we just are about to decide on which temperature levels new heating structures will have, and we want to start building it up in the next year. So, then we put all these waste heat sources together and optimize, as I said, the industrial site, but the excess heat still available, so, and there will be excess heat still available on the industrial site, will be used for the district heating area next to it. So we want to build a connection, a heat transfer station, so to say, with heat exchangers and heat pumps to fit the temperature levels and use it for a residential heating supply. So so that's one approach, one sub-project. And what's especially interesting in this case is the legislation. So what aspects does an energy supplier have to take into account, such as emission factors, so to say? And on the other side, what kind of information and legislation and economic context has an industrial side take into account. So here it's very much about the connection between these two players with different objectives, so to say, and how to manage these different objectives in this case. The second sub-project is focusing on electrolyzers. So we want to supply hydrogen for the not the urban buses, but the buses who connect Darmstadt to cities around. So here we want to use hydrogen for buses, but also industry and the gas network. So that's why we call this sub-project multisectoral decentralized electrolyzers. What's maybe different from other hydrogen projects is that we want to apply this electrolyzer station directly into the city, so that we can not only use the around 65 to 70% efficiency for getting hydrogen, but also the around 30% of waste heat. So here we can use from the 1 megawatt electrolyzers around 300 kilowatts of waste heat. And here we want to use it in the residential area as well, because we have in the center where the electrolyzers unit will be placed also a district heating network. Here we are currently researching on if we need heat pump technology to fit the temperature demands. So so that's the second project, our second sub-project here. Unfortunately, I cannot show pictures of already implemented technologies yet, because we started last year. Project start was in May 2021. We are currently in the planning phase, and we want to start the build-up phase in next year. So maybe there's a possibility in a couple of years or so to come again with some more pictures of, for example, electrolyzers or heat pumps. But right now we are in the planning phase, or we are about to finish the planning phase, and the build-up phase is then 2023 and 2024, so that we can use the last 1 or 1.5 years of the project till 2026 for the operation and evaluation of the overall research. What's somehow interesting, at the beginning, we calculated the flexibility potential and the CO2 saving potential of the project, which focuses on the technologies we applied for. But we currently already see that the research is so promising that, for example, the energy supplier wants to build a much bigger electrolyzers unit. So the research, or especially the scale up of these ideas, already take place during the project. So that's maybe one interesting aspect of this research.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kohne. This was a very impressive presentation of this rather comprehensive project. As you showed, you're still at the beginning of this project, so it's very interesting to see this at such an early stage. And I hope that, well, in the coming years, we will repeatedly hear from you how things are progressing and how things are going on. So I think at this point, we should give our listeners a chance to come up with questions that they may have on your presentation, on the topics that you discussed. So I would like to ask everybody who has a question to put it in the Q&A input in the Zoom application. And while we give a minute or so to our listeners to come up with their questions, let me just start with the first one. Because you talked a lot about heating and how it can be best organized at the municipal level, at the sub-municipal level. Obviously, in Germany, that's a big problem. Here in Southeast Asia, heating obviously is not much of a problem. But you also mentioned cooling on one of your slides, and I just shortly ask whether these basic ideas can also be applied to cooling, and whether you have already had any thoughts on these.
Yes, sure. Thanks for this question. Yes, especially in here this applies to Germany, that heating is, or the heating transition is somehow still in its infancy, so to say. But yeah, what we also see is that there's a lot of potential in cooling, especially in the sub-project from the industrial side. We also research on cooling appliances, and here, that's in the industrial area. Here we have a huge cooling demand, especially in summer. And what we see is that these overall systems are often operated not very well, so to say. So the so the parameters for the pump operation, for the temperature levels, for active and passive cooling, so there are different technologies for these, are not applied very energy optimized, so to say. And there's especially, as my experience here from Germany is that there's a huge potential looking at the cooling appliances as well, because of just the operating parameters and the technologies which are implemented. For example, we had one partner, not in this project, but somehow in the same topic area, which applied the same cooling temperature over the whole year, and applied active cooling technologies such as compression chillers the whole year. And this was very ineffective way, because the electricity demand for pumps and the surrounding stuff, not only the energy converters, was very high. So, and by changing the flow and return temperatures and the goal temperature for the cooling supply over the year and the demand curve, is a very promising way to reduce electricity demand for cooling. So that's, I think the ideas are, you can cooling is a bit different than heating, but you can apply also these ideas on optimizing energy systems for cooling. And there are some discussions in Europe already yet to research more on cooling. Also, it's not that important as heating right now.
Oh, thank you. We have now some questions that listeners have put on the chat. So actually, may I start with a question from Farah Ramadi, who on the one hand is interested in collaboration because they are working on very similar questions in Malaysia. And she also asks that she did not see potential applications on fuel cell in the hydrogen generation system, and asks what is the reason for that in your project?
What fuels? Okay, did not see the fuel cell and hydrogen. Actually, we apply hydrogen generation systems. I can. So we have this sub-project 3, where we want to build up a hydrogen generation unit with storage and a filling station for buses within the city. And what's maybe interesting is that we have the local mobility company which operates the buses within the urban area of Darmstadt, and they go on electrification because of the length of the routes of the buses, and there they for them electrification fits better with electric batteries. But we have also a second company within the project, which operates the routes outside of the city of Darmstadt, so with longer routes and longer circles for the buses, and they go on hydrogen. So I think that's one important point here. It's not always the one or the other, and here we want to research on the differences of both. So where to apply hydrogen with the efficiency of about 70% of the electrolyzers or hydrogen generation on the one side, and the potential for waste heat usage and the electrification on the other side.
Oh, thank you. I'm afraid that due to time concerns, I would like to ask Thomas to answer to the other questions, maybe in writing, and maybe Farah can also give a contact possibility, her email or something, so that you can further see how you might be able to come up with some kind of collaboration so that the research in Malaysia and in Germany on this topic can be somehow aligned and feed into each other. So thank you again very much, Thomas Kone. I think you will stay around until the end of the session. So if there are further questions in the end, you may also come back to those. And now I would like to hand over the floor to Guido Schnieders to start his presentation on the research landscape in Germany and on collaboration possibilities. You should unmute yourself.
Now, yes, unmuting is a good idea. Thank you very much. And yeah, research in Germany, landscape and funding for research cooperations. I try to be brief. And joining me in this presentation is Dr. Katja Young from the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. Let's just jump into Germany has one of the strongest economies in the world and is especially strong in exports. And we firmly believe that the basis for this is research, is our research landscape. And so Germany invests a lot in research and development, 110 billion euros, and a lot of people working in the 1,000 publicly funded research institutions. I have 3 core messages for you. And this slide is presenting the first of the 3 key messages. The German research landscape is international, and internationalization is very important. And so this is an invitation to all of you to work with us, to cooperate with us. And as you can see, this is one indicator. The number of international academic staff in Germany is constantly rising. And here, this slide is standing for the next 2 key messages. This is the pillars of the German research sector. And as you can see, we have about 400 universities state-funded in research. And the first key message is there is a very strong non-university, publicly financed research, over 1,000 institutions. I'm going to introduce a couple of them more closely. So this is the first. The second key message, we have a very important pillar, which is non-university research. And the third key message is these 1,400 institutions, state-funded, they make up only 30% of the money in Germany spent on research. 70% is spent by the industry, is spent by private company. And I don't need to say more, because in this wonderful presentation of Thomas explained already how, in this case, Merck, a company, is working together with this research project. This is typical for Germany and makes our research relevant for business. I would like to highlight some of the important research institutions, universities, more than 400. I think I go quickly through that. The non-university research institutions, central for them are the so-called Big Four research organizations. The Max Planck Society, Nobel Prize winning, is doing research in basically all scientific fields, 86 institutions, as you can see, extremely international. And the Max Planck Institute is also offering funding opportunities for you, for individual international researchers in all stages of their careers. Actually, I spoke to a representative of Max Planck yesterday, and she said that she is interested in gaining more scientists to come to Max Planck Institutes for a time to work in Southeast Asia. And the DAD Jakarta will think about ways how to present more of that. So opportunities to work with Nobel Prize winning Max Planck Institutes. The second of the big four research organizations is the Helmholtz Association. As you can see, only 18 research centers, but a large amount of money, 5 billion euros. And they do sustainable research to the grand challenges of society. And they work with large-scale, expensive equipment and infrastructure, which cannot be afforded by individual universities. And also the Helmholtz group, this is just one example, the Young Investigators group, also the Helmholtz Institutes, they are also offering possibilities to work with them for funding. The Leibniz Association is an association of, with regards to the subject, pretty diverse institutes, 97 institutions, and they specialize in knowledge transfer for politics, science, business, and society. And here also you have ample opportunities to join them, to work with them in all career stages. And last but not least, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, 75 institutes. The interesting thing on Fraunhofer is they engage in application-oriented research, and they are only to a small part state-financed, less than 50% is state-financed. They have to get the rest of the money by cooperating with the industry. So what Fraunhofer doing is really relevant for the market. That's also a very successful approach, and you know it already. Also, the Fraunhofer Institute offers opportunity for you to work with them on all levels of their career. And I still wanted to mention and to remind that the industry in Germany is engaging in research. 70%, 69% of the expenditure coming from the business. And it is characterizing for German research that universities and research institutions very closely work with companies. There are other research funding organizations. Here in this overview, the research performing institutions I already mentioned. I come to the research funding institutions now, and there is a whole lot of private public foundations funding research. It's not the time to mention it here in this context. Let me start with the German Research Foundation, the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, which is central for financing research in Germany, and they are the biggest funder for project-oriented research, and they offer many funding opportunities for individual scientists and any center of their career. As you can see, 37% of their money go to individual grants program, and of course they give opportunity to scientists in the collaborative research centers and in the research training groups. It is interesting that to mention that the DFG particularly supports the initiation of international collaboration. So internationalization is extremely high here on the agenda. The German Academic Exchange Service, my organization, is an organization which has internationalization as its task. We fund more than 11,000 scholars per year. And what we do is we give funds. We are the world's largest academic exchange organization. At least we are able to say that, as long as the China Scholarship Council is not revealing figures. We are non-profit funded by the German government, and we are the internationalization agency, so to speak, from the German government. My office is responsible for Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Timor-Leste. And I saw that many of our participants come from these countries, I would be very happy to get into contact with you. Please drop me a mail if you have any question. And what the DAAD offers for funding is a large number of scholarship programs for all different purposes. Our flagship scholarship programs are for PhD in Germany, research-oriented PhD in Germany, and we fund projects, collaborative projects between universities in Germany and abroad. And I skipped the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation for my part, because that's why Katja Young is here with us. If you need more information, and I mentioned a lot of links and a lot of opportunities, you find all these opportunities and all the funding links and all the information on the central website for research in Germany, which is www.research-in-germany.org. www.researchingermany with minus in between .org. This is all you need to make use of the information I gave you. And I thank you very much. Here is my email address, schnieders@daad.de, and I'm very happy to stay in contact with all of you. You're muted, Herr Klausing.
Thank you very much. So as you left out the Humboldt Foundation, I think it's now time to go to Katja Young so that she can fill this blank and tell us how researchers can benefit from the fellowships and other support measures by the Helmholtz Foundation.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I'm at this moment not able to share my screen with you. It says it's only possible for one person at one time to share their screen, but I think I am the only one. But anyway, that's what it says here. Okay, now it's working. Wonderful. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So I'm very happy to present our research funding opportunities to you today. So what Alexander von Humboldt Foundation basically is trying to build up a network around the world of really top-tier scientists. We are funded for the most part by the German Federal Office and also by the German Ministry of Education and Research. And I'm going to skip a couple of slides, but so what's really important for us is to give foreign top-tier researchers the opportunity to come to Germany. So our biggest parts are really the incoming programs with which we sponsor foreign academics who come to Germany, and we only have a smaller program for our German outgoing scholars. And what's might be of interest for you is that our sole selection criterion is the academic excellence. So we always say, if you are excellent, we want to fund you, because we believe in sponsoring people, not projects. Of course, people apply with a project, but if you're excellent, it does not matter from which country you come. We have no quotas for countries or for disciplines, for research areas, or for, I don't know, gender, anything. So what's important is that you need to find a host. You need to find an academic host in Germany, someone who is willing to to host you in their research institution or in their university, and support your application. And with their support, you can apply for our scholarship. And if we then, and that means external professors, think that you're among the top researchers at your field, then we're more than happy to sponsor you. And you find more information on how to find a host, because that's maybe the critical question here, how to find a host in Germany. And you find more information on that also on our website. I just posted it in the chat. So I'm going to introduce a few sponsorship, a few of our key sponsorship programs to you, just in a nutshell. We do sponsor by giving research fellowships up to 12 years upon your doctoral dissertation. You may apply. So in the first 4 years, we would think that you are a junior postdoc researcher, and then if it's between 4 and 12 years upon graduation, we would think that you're experienced research fellow. So if you apply for a research fellowship, we have the Humboldt Research Fellowship, and that's a program that's open for anyone, as I just said, in any discipline. But we also, and I would like to mention this today in with regard to the ASEAN countries, there's the Georg Forster Research Fellowship, which is open for researchers from developing countries, and also I think except from China and India from the global south, if you do research that is anyhow connected to developmental studies. So that would be the Georg Forster Research Fellowship. And as you can see, this is the amount of money that you get every month in Germany. And we also have a range of child benefit, spouse benefit. So there's some extra payments also. These are the sponsorship programs for our more experienced fellows, up to 12 years upon doctoral graduation. And then here's the next step, so to speak. As I said, research fellowships are one part of our sponsorship programs. The other part are research awards. You have to be nominated for a research award by a German scholar. And I'm not going to go into any details here. Then there's also the most prestigious Humboldt Research Award, which comes with more money. And if you get the award, you're invited to come to Germany. And our most prestigious program, that's the Alexander von Humboldt Professorship, where a German university should invite you. So these are our biggest programs where we fund most people, but in view of the topic of today, I would also like to introduce one of our smaller programs to you, which might be of interest. That's the International Climate Protection Fellowship. Again, for prospective leaders and postdocs from non-European transition and developing countries. And I believe in the ASEAN context, that means it's open for all countries except from Singapore. If you do research that is engaged in climate protection or resource conservation, and this sponsorship program in particular is also open for people with who are not in the academia, but who are working for public administration, politics, or business. And again, would like to conduct an independent project, but also agreed with a host in Germany. I'm not going into any details here, but just one more thing that I would like to point out is, as I said, Humboldt Foundation believes in building an international network of our alumni, and that is something that we do. We say we are a partner for our fellows for the whole academic life. So the initial selection process is quite competitive, but once you are one of our fellows, it's very easy for you to apply for a range of smaller funding opportunities for further research stays in Germany, or to invite your German colleagues to your home countries, to conduct some smaller conferences. And also something that might be of interest here is the research group linkage program, where you could get funding to build link between your university or research institution and an institution in Germany. And those links would then include conferences and visits at each other's institutions. So that's just in a nutshell. If you would like to get more information, you are free to Google us or find us on humboldt-foundation.de. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very comprehensive presentation of what the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation does for international researchers. You had mentioned that on the critical question of how to find a host in Germany, there is more information on the internet page that you had already posted. Nevertheless, it is one of the questions that we have already received. Someone working in the field of lasers who has contacted already 6 universities in Germany without success asks whether we would have any additional advice on how to go about finding a host, whether it would be good to translate your letters or emails into German before addressing someone, or whether there's any other trick or thing that he or she could do.
I don't think it's necessary to translate into German. And also, I didn't mention that, but it's not necessary to speak German to come to Germany. I think within the sciences, we always are happy if you like to study German, but it's not necessary, so to speak. So what we would advise is that you really look for people who would benefit from you coming to their institution. For example, if you, I don't know what exactly your research area is, but you usually should know some scholars, or maybe you can read someone whose publications you've read, and to sort of show them how your research project would be a benefit for them. So you should try to align yourself more closely to them. I think that's probably the best advice I can give here.
Yeah, thank you. And a very similar question that I would like to put forward to Guido Schniedes. We have one listener who is interested in a PhD on hybrid green buildings, possibly in Germany. And he also asks, how can he find his supervisor? I guess the advice would be quite similar.
Yeah, that's the basic advice. That's the basic advice. Don't just check your own interest, but check the interest of the professor. In Germany, successful scientists are busy, and you need to relate to them. Don't send them 15 pages proposal on the first mail. Make it short and make clear that you are familiar with some of their work. Yeah. And relate yourself to their work. If you send me an email, there are very, very good databases by the German Research Foundation where you can find research projects in Germany that helps you to identify professors, scientists working in certain research fields. And then, yeah, what Katja Young said is the most important thing. Relate to them, and yeah, don't do. Of course, you don't, but sometimes it happens that, like, dear professor, that mass emails are sent. These are not even read if it doesn't relate to the professor.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have some more questions, but I'm afraid we're running out of time. So I would ask the viewers and listeners to take the contact information that Guido and Katja have given and write an email to them so that they can answer to you directly. And therefore,
may I just
yep.
Sorry, may I
Sure.
just add, I just posted another webpage where you can find information on research institutions in Germany. That's Gerrit.org by the DFG. Sorry. Thank you.
Fine. That would already answer one of the questions here on host institutions for climate research, I think. And so what is left to me is to thank again to all our 3 presenters for their very insightful presentations, and to hand the floor back to Susanne.
Thank you again, Dr. Klausing, and thank you to all the presenters, Katja, Guido, and Thomas, if you don't mind being informal today. As we've heard, unfortunately, we don't have too much time, but I think you have gotten a first taste of how many opportunities there are in Germany, of the kind of cutting-edge research that is being carried out, and of course, the funding opportunities that are waiting for you to tap into to have your own innovative research career journey funded. So Katja from the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, we have a lot of Alexander von Humboldt alumni in the region, and of course Guido funding from the DAD. You know, it's one of the biggest funding organizations in the world, as we've heard, and there's really lots of opportunities for you. So we will publish a recording of today's session on the event website, and with the permission of the presenters, we'll also add information on their presentations in an email that you will all receive in the coming days. So we would just encourage you to reach out to them to get more details. And of course, Jenny and I, we're here in the region. If you ever would like to get more information and be connected perhaps to potential collaborators, you can always reach us at asean@euraccess.net. It just leaves me to thank you again, close the session, and we'll hope to see you again in the coming days because we have more in store for you. So with this, thanks to the presenters and the moderator, and thank you all for listening. See you all very soon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for being with us.